Most people think they're asking financial questions, but what we found is they're asking something much deeper. Welcome to Paladin Financial Talk. I'm your host, Nikki Foley, and today I'm joined by founder of Paladin Financial and featured advisor, Mr. Jeff Foley, who's my partner in life and business. Welcome,
Yay.
Mr. Jeff Foley.
Welcome. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, over the next few episodes, I'm sitting down with our advisors that are on our team to ask the most common questions that we get as we're sitting across from prospective clients. So, questions like, do I have enough? And so, what we're really doing here, and what I think we're going to find as we explore this topic, is there are oftentimes misconceptions behind those questions. We also have to help reframe those questions to get a better understanding of what the client is actually, or prospective client is actually trying to
The
communicate.
real question.
That's right. And the deeper truth, there's often more that is behind that question that's driving the conversation. And so, because financial planning really isn't just about numbers, there's so much more to it that we're hoping that we help people find clarity, confidence, and make decisions that fit into their life. And so, that's what we're going to explore over the next 4 episodes. And our goal for this series is really simple, it's to help people, or to help you understand your own questions, avoid some of those common misconceptions that I was referring to, and to walk away with a clearer sense of what really matters and when it comes to your financial future. So, with that, Jeff, let's kick this off.
Okay. Sounds fun.
So, as a starting point, let's just do a quick introduction of you. If we have listeners that have been following along, you have certainly been doing this show. Are we over 300 shows at this point, I think?
I don't know.
I think we are, and
somewhere on there.
you had been leading the charge for the first several years of doing this. But let me tell our listeners just a little bit about you. So you've spent the last 30 years in the financial services industry, and you really have been in the full perspective of financial services, meaning I always use the distribution chain, and that sounds so technical, but you've been with an insurance company, you sat in the middle with a brokerage or a wholesale type opportunity, and now we've spent the last several years working with clients and working with them face to face on their own unique situation as an advisor. And so, something else that I think that's a really important piece about who we are is the education. And so I think that's been a hallmark of what Paladin Financial has come to be. But before we talk a little bit more about that, because I want you to expand on why that's important. But before we do that, I want to tell a little bit about your education. So not only have you do you have your master's degree in the financial realm, but you went ahead and got your certified financial planner certification, which it's really a testament to your ethics and your education and the professional responsibility that you have to our clients. And then you also recently obtained our the certified tax specialist certification. And so tell me a little bit about your philosophy on education, why that's important to you, why you think that plays into the role of working with our clients, and just expand on that a little bit.
Yeah. I'm big believer of knowledge is power, but you have to apply that and actually do something with it. So I'm really passionate about continuing to learn about our industry and taxes and investments and all the fun stuff that we get to deal with every day. And for a long time, really, I was one of those people that always knew what they wanted to do at a young age, started picking out stocks when I was 13, studied this stuff in college, and it's been my passion over the years. And that's a big part of what we do at Paladin. We meet every day, and our advisors, we meet a couple days a week on top of that, and just continue to hone our knowledge. There's always something changing, always something new out there, and we want to make sure that we're able to apply that appropriately to our clients.
Absolutely. And how do you go about educating the clients? What are you proud of from that perspective?
Yeah. It starts with, which part of what we're going to talk about today is asking good questions. And from that, and hearing what those answers are that people provide, is applying the knowledge that we have to that person's situation. So very big on whiteboarding. So I like to whiteboard. Fun fact for listeners, when Nikki and I started dating, I had a whiteboard in my living room, big one, probably 6x4. Should probably keep that to myself, but
You should keep that to yourself.
that exited stage left pretty quickly. But yeah, we whiteboard a lot and draw out concepts for our clients and prospective clients to help them better understand what we're talking about. Most people are visual learners, and we found that very helpful.
Yeah. And I just want to add to that, I think the additional events that we host and the podcasts and the efforts that we put into social media is about meeting our clients with the information that they're looking for. And so hosting our client education events twice a year, hosting client appreciation events, having guests come in and speak. The podcast that we do weekly really plays
Mhm.
into your philosophy and your desire to make sure we educate our clients.
Yeah. We send out weekly market update videos, keep everybody up to date on what's going on. Again, something always happening out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Was there anything that I missed on your resume that you think's relevant that we share with our listeners today?
I've had the opportunity to learn a lot from other advisors over the years. Listen to a lot of podcasts, to go to a lot of conferences, things like that. And I've had the opportunity to also give back and coach thousands of advisors over the years through different conferences that I've presented at, and teaching financial planning concepts and how we do what we do at Paladin. So gotten a lot of joy out of that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's get to our topic today. And so, Mr. Foley, what is the number one question that you hear or concern that you hear from a prospective client?
Yeah. Biggest one is, can I retire, or when can I retire? Big shocker there. I'm going first in this 4-part series, so I'm picking the most obvious one there. But yeah, that's a common one. When should I file for Social Security? Probably is close second to that as well. But retirement is what people are mostly concerned about.
Yeah, and that really is where we focus as kind of our niche is on the retirement side of
Mhm.
things. And I always bring this back to one of my favorite quotes by Stephen Covey is begin with the end in mind. And so even if you are not at pre-retirement or retirement age, there are so many things to put in place as you're working toward that ultimate goal, even if you are much younger in the process. But if you begin with what that goal is, ultimately it's retirement. There's so many things you can do that's right long before you get to that point. And so, Jeff, as I talk about that and your question of, I'm just going to boil it down to something very simple of, can I retire? Is
Mhm.
now the right time? Give me a real world example where that might come into play and where you've heard that.
Yeah, one of our couples that we started working with about 3 years ago, they're mid-60s to keep it short, and they attended one of our Social Security workshops to learn, when should they file for Social Security, how do they get the most out of that? And as we started to work with them, they were ready to retire, but they weren't sure if they could. And when do we file for Social Security, and how do all these moving parts come together? They had heard of different approaches and philosophies with Social Security. So we dug in and started with the Social Security question. But to your point, it's a bigger question of, when can I retire? How does all this stuff work? And are we going to have enough throughout the years?
And so to dig into that just a little bit more. So you talked about it starting with Social Security. The question really came down to, can I retire? But was there more to that, or was there some misconceptions that sat behind that? And where do people get those ideas?
Yeah. In looking at the numbers with them, they had more than enough to retire. They could have retired three times over. They had done a very good job saving, no debt, house was paid off, and they could do that, and showed them, you can retire, but how do we get the most out of things? It's not just, do I have enough, but can I do better with what I have? So their misconception after going through our process was, gosh, we're just not comfortable with it yet. We don't see this working. So we really had to unpack that and took several meetings to kind of unearth some bigger issues there, but they didn't think that they had enough, was their misconception.
Sure. And so how do you reframe that? What does that process look like? And you said you started with them 3 years ago, and I think this conversation is still on the table with them, is maybe one of them has, or just dig into that a little bit more. Like, how have you had to continue to reframe this conversation to get to
Yeah.
the foundation?
In their situation, we kept asking questions because it became obvious that the numbers showed they were getting quite fine, but they weren't acknowledging that reality. Something still wasn't landing with the numbers, and I showed them various situations. What if Social Security disappears? You're still okay. What if inflation is 6% a year for the rest of your life? You're still okay. And it wasn't moving the needle. So we really had to dig deeper to figure out what it was that, um, kind of, corner them sounds a little aggressive, but what are we thinking here? What's the real concern?
So, in your experience, there is a deeper truth oftentimes behind some of these concerns or questions that they come in with initially. And maybe even after peeling back the onion, you still have another layer there. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah, yeah. Fear is a common thing that comes up, and people are fearful of different things. In their situation, they were fearful of not having enough and not knowing what they don't know, and that's why they have us as a partner in this process. So, unpacking that fear and identifying what it was that they were really concerned about was very important. Other people have different fears or issues. We all have, no one's perfect, but some people spend to fill in a hole that they're trying to fill in something that has happened in their life, and they spend money to feel good. And sometimes that results in them spending too much money. And to your point earlier, the Stephen Covey quote, he talks about making sure the ladder is on the right wall. So understanding what you're retiring to is very important. So getting to that as well, because retirement is a big change, and you've worked, let's say 40 years plus, to make that change can be pretty scary for some people.
Sure. And I don't know if this is where you're going with this, but with the latter conversation, there is making sure it's on the right wall, keeping that bigger picture and that vision of what you're working towards, because the world happens around us and it happens so quickly. And you might find that your spending or the fear or the whatever has been around you for so long, it's become a habit.
Mhm.
And so that bigger picture of what am I aiming for? What do I really want? Sometimes gets lost when the day to day is happening. And so having a quarterback or having a partner alongside of you, I think, is a key piece to help address some of this emotional piece of it, so that you keep eye on the prize is
Yeah,
kind of the bigger
very
picture.
true. And this couple, they had done such a good job saving that it felt extremely odd and felt uncomfortable for them to switch from putting money in to now taking money out. But that's the whole reason that they put money in for all those years, was to be able to have enough in retirement. So that gear shift from saving to spending does take, for some people, some time to get used to that concept.
Sure. And I think another piece that goes into this is we talk about it, you're looking at two individuals that may have differing opinions and life experiences. And so not only are you navigating it on your own and for yourself, but you're with a partner.
Mhm.
And so doing this together, that can add another layer of challenge that, sometimes there may be more to that as well. And to get to the foundation of two people, in a big transition
Yeah,
phase is another variable.
yeah, definitely.
So as we wrap that conversation up, any other examples that you want to share, whether it's with that couple specifically or just in general, of things that you run into of there being something that is a deeper truth to things, and kind of the ahas that go behind that?
Yeah. Just to finish out that example with the couple, is in digging through things, finally was able to discover that the gentleman had felt like he had not done enough to contribute toward their retirement. So even though the numbers showed they were just fine, he felt he had not done enough personally, because her income had been higher and had therefore saved more money over the years. So it was, to some degree, some pride, and making sure that he had done his part of it along the way. So that took some time to get comfortable with that adjustment. Another example that comes to mind, relatively new client that we started working with. She's early 60s, came in, met with us, and had a milestone goal of saving $1 million, which she had surpassed that, and thought she was going to work for another year and a half or so. We went through our process, got her plan implemented, and she came back to us for her initial meeting after we implemented her plan and said, "I'm done in June." So that was very exciting to see that she had jumped over that and was comfortable with finally retiring. And for her, it was a big piece of her identity was her work. She's single, no kids, and very happy for her that she was able to make that transition, because she can retire sooner.
Yeah, I feel like we could probably sit here all day long and tell stories
Mm.
about the emotional piece that actually really gets into the mix when we're talking about retirement. And you gave the example of her identity being tied to that. I know in the fall, I had another example working with one of our female clients who was married, but she had a lot tied up into the fact that she was contributing, that this was part of her identity as
Mhm.
a working, person within the relationship. And so as we, wrap up this conversation and we talk about takeaways for those that are listening today, when we're sitting across the table from prospective clients and you hear that question of, can I retire? What's the next step that you hope for a prospective client they might take?
Yeah. I think giving the process a chance. So giving the process of working with us, or if we're not the right fit for you, working with a good financial planner. We like to say that you retire once, we retire many. If you think of the specialists out there, even the medical field, you go to your general practitioner and you get a referral to, a leg specialist, hand specialist, whatever. Most people aren't growing their own food, making their own clothes. There's a reason for that. This is what we do day in and day out. And one of the things that often comes up, people are fearful if they've never worked with a financial advisor. Gosh, I don't know if I'm going to like it. Try it out for a quarter. I mean, the way we work, we earn our keep every quarter. And if you're not happy with the value that you're getting with any financial advisor, pick things up and go somewhere else. But you will see a lot of benefits in that process. So giving it a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good perspective. And anything to prepare people, especially if they've never worked with an advisor before, that there's some homework or some perspective you can have before you ever walk in the door. If, your recommendation is to give the process a chance, what would be something that you could do at home, maybe, or just anything that somebody listening could take away or do differently?
Yeah, I would say do some research on, if you're not a do-it-yourselfer, and you'll know it if you are one. You're watching the market every day. You love to pick out your own stocks and bonds and whatnot. You do your own taxes, things like that. If that is not you, which most people are not, do a little research on what it's like to work with a financial advisor. Vanguard has a great study out there called Advisor Alpha. You can Google that, and talks about the value. It's very numbers focused, but talks about the value that a financial advisor, an average financial advisor, offers and adds to you as a consumer. We also offer a piece that we can send out to you as well called Questions to Ask a Financial Advisor, that has the most common questions if you're meeting with different firms and kicking the tires and comparing. That here's some good questions to ask and Paladin's answers to each of those questions. And that will better arm you with some knowledge that you can use as you have those conversations and think through what that looks like.
Well, that's a fantastic offering that you made there, Jeff. So if you want to take the next step, be sure to check out that download that we'll make available. So questions to ask a financial advisor that goes along with this episode. It's designed to help you when you're ready to take action. And so if you're sitting there thinking also, gosh, what if, I some of this sounds like me, what's a next step that they could take as well?
Yeah, give us a call if you feel like you this might be you, or you want a second opinion. Give us a call. We offer a 15-minute complimentary conversation, and from that we can have, if you feel it's a good fit after that, we can have an hour-long complimentary consultation and get more in depth to about your situation and better explain to you how we can add value to you as you prepare for retirement, or if you're already retired, how you can get the most out of that. You can give us a call at 651-842-8406, or visit us at paladinfinancial.com. Or you can also send us an email at info@paladinfinancial.com. And you can also check us out on social media as well.
Yeah. So if you are interested in booking that 15-minute consultation, you go to our website at paladinfinancial.com. And in the top right corner, there is a booking link, and click that. And we'd be happy to set that up and spend just a few minutes with you so you know what the experience might be like and answer some of those questions that are on your mind right now. Again, as Jeff mentioned, follow us on our social media platforms. So that includes YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all the regular ones out there. We'd love to have you follow along. So as you can hear topics that might relate to you, we're here and ready to assist. So thank you for listening today. Thank you for joining another episode of Paladin Financial Talk. Jeff, is there anything you want to add before we wrap up today?
Oh, thank you for listening again. Yeah, give us an opportunity to sit down and chat with you, and we can definitely provide some value for you.
Well, thanks for joining us today, Jeff, as our featured advisor. And we look forward to doing and having everybody join us on our next episode.
Is that okay?